Okay, so for our last recipe for produce Gateaux, Torten and Cakes, what we're going to do is make macarons, French macarons specifically. The ingredients that I've got set up today for French macarons are, we've got pure icing sugar, and you really do need to use pure icing sugar when making French macarons. We've got almond meal and a little bit of caster sugar. We've got egg whites that are totaling to a minimum of 140 grams. We'll add a pinch of salt to that. Then I've got two different fillings set up already here as well. Basically, we've got a dark chocolate ganache, which is just a small amount of a thickened cream alongside some dark Coventry chocolate. And also here, I've got just a very, very simple cheesecake filling, which will be, I'll squeeze the lemon juice in them. We've got cream cheese, condensed milk, some beautiful pure vanilla extract. I'll squeeze the lemon juice in there, approximately a tablespoon, and I also will add a little bit of zest as we're mixing through, so very easy. All I have to do with this is combine until really well combined, and then we'll put it into a piping bag fitted with a really small round nozzle. Same with the ganache. All we have to do is put it into the microwave. You could put it onto a double boiler for a short period of time, or place it into the microwave for approximately 20 to 30 seconds. You don't want the chocolate to be 100% melted. It only needs to be 3/4 melted, as the residue heat will continue to melt the rest of that. Because we're using pure icing sugar, it's prone to clump really quickly because of atmospheric moisture. So it does take a little bit more time with regards to sieving all your ingredients. But I promise the end result is fantastic. I've changed my sieve for the almond meal because the other one was a bit too fine. So I've just made it a bit bigger. Also need to add a pinch of salt, approximately 2 grams. So now we've got to do our egg whites, and we've got to whip them to a firm peak. And then we're going to add some colouring to our egg whites, and then fold our egg whites really, really gently into our dry good mix. So adding caster sugar. A couple of critical control points we need to think about when we're whipping egg whites. Most importantly is that the bowl and the utensils you are using must be 100% clean. If they are not, your egg whites will not react properly. They'll react with the fat and they will not foam up. We're almost at a soft peak stage. So if we stop it at the moment, we can see it's almost at a medium peak. The peak goes up and then it doesn't go down necessarily straight away, it takes a little while. So we're at medium peak. We do need to be careful not to over whip our egg whites, otherwise they will start separating and the water will start coming out. So if we lift it now, we can see that peak stays up, almost. The other one did. There we are. And you should be able to tip it over your head, and if it doesn't come out, you know it's ready. Okay, so now we need to add food colouring, and with macarons you find once they're cooked, if we don't put enough food colouring in there, they become really kind of dull and not bright and vibrant in colour. So we actually need to have it really, really bright. The color I would like to achieve today is going to be purple. So to achieve purple, we get our primary colors, and it will be 3 drops of red to 1 drop of blue. So I'm going to start with 3 times the amount off the bat. So 9 drops of red, 9 to 3 drops of blue. One, 2. I must have done this a few times before, but that's a beautiful, perfect color that we want. I've organized a piping bag fitted with a really small round nozzle and just folded half of it over my hand in preparation for the mix. I've got my sifted dry ingredients, which I'm now going to just combine, and I've got my beautiful egg white. So what we're going to do is start folding our egg white into our dry goods in 3 batches. Now, most important obviously is that we don't knock out any of that air, all our critical control points that we need to think about now. The first lot will really get all your mix really used to your egg white. At this point it looks like something is going wrong. Don't stress, nothing is going wrong. As I've said previously in other videos, we're not going to 100% mix it because we've still got so much more egg to add. We're only mixing it 3/4. Another 1/3. Fold. At this point it starts looking like something. Scrape everything off spatula, and now very carefully your last 1/3. Now the last 1/3 is the really most important, so you really need to take your time and some care. Now at this point we start looking like a macaron mixture. Okay, and there's our mix. Don't cut off the end until you're just about to pipe. The first mise en place thing we need to do for macarons is actually make the templates. Now you can buy sheets with perfect round circles on it, and it's almost like a reusable material. However, a lot of people don't have them in their places, so there's lots of other ways we can do it. So it's just a matter of getting a texter, holding your round circle down the size that you want your macarons, and quite simply make circles. Now, one thing we must remember, so when I bake this, I'm going to turn the paper upside down. Obviously, I don't want any of that ink in my food. I'm going to leave approximately a 1.5 centimeter gap in between. Turn upside down. If we do it straight away, we will never forget. Next one. You're always better off doing extra templates than less, because the last thing you want at the last minute when you're piping your macarons is to have to do this, because then your macaron mixture will collapse on you. Alright, again, straight away, upside down. And there we have our templates for macarons. Like I've said before, always chuck this bit right in the bin straight away, otherwise it tends to find its way into food. Now I decided we're going to do a few different shape or sizes. So it really depends what size you want and what you're doing. We can make also large ones for more Gateaux style and more elaborate, which we'll do a few of those as well. But I'm going to start with small ones. Always make sure it's at the bottom. Now if you're having a problem with your paper moving, little trick. And your paper will stay still. So you kind of glue it to your tray. Now we're going to pipe. 190-degree angle, squeezing from the top. Now what we do, we need to bang our tray, and you'll notice those bubbles come to the top. You also sometimes notice on your macarons that there might be a little, almost a nipple on the top. If you wet your finger just lightly, and you can smooth those little nipples off. Make sure your finger's not too wet, please. But it gets rid of those bumps and smooths it out. All right, beautiful. So now what we do, we allow that to rest for approximately 15-20 minutes. So when I touch the top of my macarons, it won't get sticky. So for example, if I'm touching the top now, it sticks to my finger. So by the time of that end of that 15-20 minutes, it's going to form a skin on the top. Now once that skin is formed, we know it's ready to bake. So now just with the cream cheese, so with the chocolate ganache, I just melted the chocolate and the cream together until the chocolate was about 1 or 2/3 melted, and the residue heat will melt it. Then I just wrapped it up, put it into a piping bag, really fitted with a really small round nozzle. Same with the cheesecake filling. I've got all my ingredients in the bowl, just simply with the whisk. I'm gonna mix everything up. With the cheesecake mix, you just need to make sure it's all smooth. You can adjust the lemon or the sugar up to you with regards to your palate and what you desire. All right. Again, tie the top. You could pre-prepare this today for tomorrow or even for next 2 to 3 days. It will last quite a while in the fridge. Will have to be refrigerated between 1 and 4 degrees. So allow setting time now. With the ganache, I would probably suggest that you keep it at ambient temperature. If you put it into the fridge, it might get too hard, and then when you try to pipe it, it's a bit too difficult. Because the amount of chocolate in there, the amount of sugar, we don't have to worry about it being a perishable item as such, and we're going to use it within the next 4 hours anyway. So I'm going to refrigerate my cheesecake mix, leave my ganache at room temperature, and wait for my macarons to cook. So just quickly, with our macarons, we've left them about 15 minutes. It's quite the ambient temperature in the kitchen today is a little bit dry, so they've dried out a little bit quicker than slower. And you've got to take that into compensation, especially when we're making things like this. So what we do now, we get our finger and we just touch the surface. As you can see, some of them are not. This one was a little bit wet, but as I lift my finger, nothing is sticking to the bottom of my finger. So that layer of hardened surface has gone hard, and now we know that the macarons are ready to be baked. So now we place them into a preheated oven, heated at 150 degrees, and we bake them for approximately 17 to 20 minutes. So a few things we need to know about macarons. When we cool your macarons down, you need to put them on a cooling rack and you need to allow them to 100% cool. Otherwise, what will happen, because of the sugar content, they will stick to your tray. But once they're cooled down, they'll quite simply just peel off like that. And there's your macaron. Then you can allow them to put them on a cooling rack and allow them to finish cooling like so. Now, if your macarons crack like this, that means they've probably been overcooked by about a couple of minutes. So our macarons are now 100% cold, so next thing we have to do is find the same size macarons and then start joining them together. This makes sure that you've got even sizes. Alright, the consistency of your macaron on the inside, when we break it, should be still moist and chewy on the inside but crispy on the outside. Alright, so there's a number of ways we can garnish our macarons. I'm going to show you a few different various methods. Our pre-made chocolate ganache that we didn't refrigerate. As I've said many a times, that piece straight in the bin. Now, when we do fill our macarons, we've got to be careful not to put too much filling because it's going to squeeze out the edge and it's not going to look good. However, we don't want to put not enough because it won't go all the way to the edges. So just bear that in mind. So now it's a matter of sandwiching. How to display. Obviously they look beautiful just as is. If we're putting on a buffet, we want to make it a little bit more special. Make sure when you're garnishing, you always use your seasonal fruit. And that's my macarons, the chocolate ganache filling. We can make our macarons a little bit more elaborate instead of just putting a single filling in there. And we make it more like, I suppose, a gateau, so to speak. So, just showing you another way we could possibly serve a larger macaron. Cheesecake filling. Presentation is something that not everyone can do, and it's something that takes time and over years of experience where you get better. Now, I suppose art is in the eye of the beholder and how we do things. However, how we can charge and different charges for different products. So if I'm just selling one macaron, I could sell that for $4.50. If I'm selling a macaron like this, I could sell it closer to double the price, $8 to $10. However, if I'm in a fine dining restaurant and I'm doing a macaron dessert, a plated dessert, I would be charging anywhere between $18 and $23 for this plate. It's all the same product, but it's just how it's been presented really shows of the type of place you're working at and the price that also is, I suppose, associated with the food that you're presenting.